Okay, here we go. Recording. Hey everyone, my name is Dee. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is a weekend astrology report from September 11th, 2020 until Monday, September 14th, 2020. And we're gonna, we're really wrapping up the end of the lunar cycle here. So we're going to talk about um, the beginning of the lunar cycle just to kind of refresh our memories about what we're doing and what intentions we set for this particular period of time, because it's playing itself out right now, and there's a lot of frustration and there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of push to maybe act on some things, or feel like something needs to happen. And as we look at how things are going to transpire potentially over the weekend, it will give us there is a reward there is a reward for being patient and resolute in this time, despite the fact that emotionally we're losing steam here because the moon is waning in her energy, and she's in Cancer right now. She's going to move into Leo, so it's going to be a lot about safety, protection, emotional security, moving into a place of creative self-expression, wanting to express oneself, wanting to shine, and put oneself out there. And as the energy of the moon is waning, that becomes, we have to spend more energy engaging with that personally. And I think that it could be, we could potentially find ourselves overcompensating when really the strategy might be to contract, and see things, focus oneself on the particular, focus oneself on what we've been doing this whole time, which is getting ourselves in order, getting ourselves disciplined, to a point where eventually we're going to get to this stage, especially with the equinox and the next new moon, because we're closing out this cycle. The patience and an ability to kind of tame those energies for the right time, is it, that time is coming, and it'll be, I think with the new moon we'll recognize like just how far we have come, to get to this point. And then with the sun going into Libra, the equinox, I think this is gonna be a really big opening for us. So we'll just talk about the weekend astrology to kind of, because this is really setting the tone now, and we have to dig deeper than we have to keep digging deeper in order to get to the resources that we need, because they're essentially at the core of the earth. That's really what the Cancerian energy is. And the moon likes to be in Cancer, and she's at home in Cancer, so she's really capable of getting, as long as she is contained, she's very comfortable there. But we really have to make sure that we are rooted to the most solid and nourishing place that we can be, because everything that's not is just falling away. Okay, so 9/11, here we are. There's the fires in the Pacific Northwest. Now let's talk about what happened earlier today. The moon crossed the North Node and was sextile Mars in Aries at the same degree that the moon was at on 9/11 in 2001. And then you have Mars in Aries retrograde. You have Black Moon Lilith in Aries conjunct. They come together, and Black Moon Lilith is about survival, right? And is about self-preservation, coming together with Mars in Aries. It's a reminder. It's an emotional reminder, and it feels like, regardless, it feels too close to home when it comes to that event, and what its intention was, and what the intention of events like that are meant to be, which is to instill chaos and fear. But there's also a sense that something new can be created out of this situation if you take your emotional component out of it. And at the time in 9/11, I don't think we weren't ready. We weren't ready to really face what that brought to the forefront for us. But this round of, I mean, a lot of it, but especially the fires, it feels to me, and with these configurations, it's a reminder. It's a reminder, and boy, is it really triggering people who are right in the midst of it in terms of their own self-preservation and their survival and wanting to do something about it. But having Mars retrograde, this is really difficult. So that's going on today. And we also have the sun in an opposition to Neptune, the sun in Virgo, right? The slow and steady wins the race. And then Neptune in Pisces, which is just, you know, everything and nothing, the realm of fantasy, illusion, and imagination. And at a degree specifically, that's just like, just trust your intuition. Like you know, don't, there's no need to even really like think about it or do anything about it. You're just there feeling what it's like to pet the white lamb, so to speak, right? It's just like, oh, you know, and like you're getting all of this sensory input, and it's a warm, almost naive kind of experience. This is where Neptune is, and so we're kind of consistently, and it's retrograde, so it's not that warm and comfortable of an experience, but we're still having to feel our way around this state. And then the sun in opposition here is, you know, there's something based in like reality because it's an earth sign, and it's pulling us in one direction or the other, where we're completely rooted in like this activity to do something, better ourselves, be disciplined and very detail oriented, or just like into this realm of total sensory input without any analysis or any even anchoring into physicality. It's all imagination, it's all feeling, and it's strong when Neptune's pulling. So you want to find the mid ground, because you also don't want to, at least today, be too focused on like got to do something, got to do something. Now some people, that is important, and it's part of a larger picture, which I think is what we are finishing out in this lunar cycle. We have not gotten to the point where we start to all recognize the amount of work it takes to get to a point where you embody some sort of real service to humanity. Right now, we're just still in the training period, each individually, and we have to keep doing that. And that means every time we're confronted with fear, every time we're confronted with, you know, anything that's confusing, right? We have to address it, and it gives us a chance to get into our center again. And this is where the sun in Virgo, we all are individually doing this, because once the equinox hits, we're all going to like, you know, there's this potential to take all of that training and education we've all each been individually doing and actually applying it, but it's not time yet. And so that's really frustrating and really scary. And it's really easy to just like slip right in, you know, just like fall completely into just disillusionment about all of it. Or to be like totally hyper focused on, you know, changing some aspect of reality. So you got to find, but not trusting what's going on. So you got to find that midpoint here, and that's been a lot of today. And I think a lot of people's emotions and their minds, it's starting to be an overload. So balancing act is really, really important. Let's see here. And we also have Chiron, that is, oh, here we go. Chiron, that is in 8 degrees Aries now. And Mercury, it's come off its opposition as well. So, oh God, Chiron in Aries is really throwing a wrench in all of this stuff. Let's move on. Let's move on to tomorrow, because it'll come up and it'll make more sense as we move on. Okay, so now that we have the moon in Cancer, she likes being in Cancer, right? She's at home here, but the moon is waning in power. So what is happening here? This is tomorrow morning. Let's go a little bit further, because we still have that. Because this gets up to be a very busy chart in the middle of the day. All right. There we go. So then we got Mars is starting to come into square with Saturn again. Oh man. Okay. So once we get to this next degree of the sun in Virgo, this is where people are going to really start to rally. See, this is where you just have to be patient. You can start seeing people to coming together, start seeing what we can all come together to do, but we're not quite there yet. We're still working on ourselves individually, but we can see what needs to be done because now we're starting to practice, right? But then the moon is going to have all these oppositions in Cancer, and this is where it's going to get interesting because she wants to be emotionally secure. We're talking about our actual safety, feeling emotionally safe in our home, with our family, being secure. And she's losing power. And so she's going to start coming into these, there it is, all these oppositions with Jupiter, which is really, especially this degree, is really about like the mother hen, like caring for her young, like actual real life provisions here of trying to take care of needs of those who are dependent. That's where the moon is. We're gonna, people are really gonna start seeing things and in opposition to Jupiter, which is not quite, it's so close to going direct. And so it's really, it's tugging on this. Is like, are we gonna like this expand into this state of political power or not? Because Jupiter's been retrograde at this degree, representing political power. And then soon we'll go direct at this degree. And so the moon is really just pulling all of this energy because, I mean, it's still at home, but is, like I said, she's losing power, and she's like, hey, I need to like care about what's happening with my family and the safety of the world around me right now. Because you're not really doing everything over here, Jupiter. Like, you are retrograde, so you're not really expanding out into like taking any, not even like any leadership or managerial anything right now. So this is why going direct right after this, we're going to feel a big like shift in we're going to feel a big shift in the energy. And but there's frustration otherwise. Frustration here, frustration when it squares or is in opposition to Pluto retrograde, which is in just transformative mode and is at this point where it's, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. And this degree is all about accepting your awards for bravery, that everybody on each side, if they've been fighting bravely, are getting some sort of like recompense for the situation, which means you have to kind of, there has to be a winner and a loser. There has to be a fight in general. And with Pluto retrograde here, this is some serious resistance to the breaking down of this model, really. Yeah, and the moon coming into that opposition again, it's just like, she's starting to feel very secure in herself as she moves through late Cancer, but it's she's a little bit too sure of herself emotionally at this point because she's just losing so much power. And then in opposition to Pluto, and then also to Saturn in its home sign. I mean, she's really just no match at this point for the big, massive structural overhauls that are happening in opposition to this. But she's still feeling really sure of herself, but it's not, it's based on less than maybe what she's projecting, and it's no match for this stuff. And then she'll come into Leo. And so before that, though, she's also going to trine Neptune in Pisces. And our patience is kind of wearing thin. But emotionally, it's like, we got to give ourselves some space to just like feel good too. And I want to, there's, engaging in this escapism once in a while, or at least into the realm of fantasyland so you can get inspired, is not a terrible thing. And maybe you have to find some, socially sanctioned way. That's the 20 degrees of Cancer, a way to feel, to feel festive and to have a good time and to feel safe. But it's within the context of something that has been passed down through generations, part of a culture. But it's well supported by, because it's going to help, I think, stimulate inspiration and to kind of get into that realm of being inspired and having a muse, and like getting into some of the deeper structures, like getting into your intuition, getting into a much deeper meditative space. And maybe that's something that you allow yourself to do over the weekend. And I think that's important because this is still a very active energy with the sun in opposition to it. So um, it's okay to go into these spaces, especially because we are getting frustrated, and we have to like get ourselves feeling good emotionally so that we can do the work to keep ourselves balanced emotionally. So sometimes it's good to like find ways to just, self-soothe really. And then Jupiter goes direct, and we have this changing of the guard, like the expansion back outward of the leadership. And when we're definitely talking leadership, because it's at a degree about political power in Capricorn, right? This is a big deal. So something is going to shift in this point here. And I think, yeah, lots of frustration, but this is going to start breaking up that tension, or it's going to be aggravated by our needs and our illusory feeling that we might be more secure than we are, especially if we're going into Leo. It's not to say that we aren't, but we have to be very willing to go into these spaces, I think, to be inspired and to get into deeper meditations, to understand our truth and to hold fast to it. We just might need a vessel, a certain type of vessel for that. And that's what this moon in Cancer 20 degrees is all about. Let's move to the 13th. No, today. This is when we're going to talk about Chiron, because there's a lot. Look at that. Yeah. All right. So Venus is going to trine Chiron. You can see this big blue line right here. So now the moon is in Leo. So much more bombastic, much more wanting to express ourselves emotionally and be kind of like the center stage of ourselves emotionally, and like actually express it. Leo is very expressive and performance oriented. So our emotions people are gonna start really expressing themselves and getting really close. Venus and Leo, I mean, the realm of the earth. Venus rules Taurus in Leo, which is about combustion. I mean, it is about an active fire in some ways. Like it's not surprising that the natural areas and what we value is being, what people value, what we value is being fully expressed through this like creative energy, but it's destructive at the same time. So but we also are going to really want to express what we value when the moon, like we're going to get real expressive about it. And I think the Venus in Leo, especially with fires happening, is really just showing us what we do value when it comes to this element of fire, because fire does create as a result of its destruction as well. But in Leo, it's just full on in the process of actually happening. So not surprising that Venus here, there's tons and tons and tons of wildfires. But also metaphysically and archetypally, there's definitely some, but we are expressing what we value. We're very the ego is just running high, and we are very connected to what feels good for us with Venus. And so in this realm, she wants what she wants, and she is who she is. That's the other thing. She's going to tell you who she is with Venus and Leo. And so with the moon coming, it's going to be a double edge and like much more of a deeper and emotional component to that. Now, at the same time, it's going to trine Chiron in Aries, which is all about our wounding. Oh my Lord. And trines are very stable, so it doesn't necessarily mean a good thing. It just means that it's stable, that these energies are creating some sort of base, and which other things can build upon. So the fires are providing the chaos that is the undifferentiated stage before the reformation. That is what's happening, and it's directly connected. Do we feel like a victim based on what's happening, or are we aware that we're actually, even though we understand, this is so difficult because we're things are just so real now, and they have been for so many months. But in this particular situation, like the 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 process, are are we do we understand that we're still, even though we have access to spiritual energies now, at the same time we're also still the energies that are still immature but also very powerful, we're still being protected to a certain extent, right? If we understand that, then we're not a victim. And if we don't understand that, or we don't have that perspective, then it's really easy to become feeling like a victim, or the victim savior mentality, which is where Chiron, that's what Chiron does for us, is show us that dichotomy that we need to step out of ultimately. So these the fires specifically, for everybody, especially the people who are right there, I mean, are well integrated, well balanced, I would say, actually not integrated, but well balanced with where Chiron is, and giving us a chance to really dig right into that, because we keep getting challenged over and over to re-investigate this victim, non-victim, or this victimhood, or this wounded healer aspect. We keep getting within each of us, and as part of the essence of who we are, it keeps getting um, activated. And right now, specifically, these fires, especially because of the connection emotionally to 9/11, and actual astrologically, it just feels too much like it is poking at an old wound that is so real, and is so potent, that we, to ignore it would be, I think, really foolish right now. And it's actually so balanced that it's kind of unavoidable at this point, how much this energy is really connected to what's going on. And I'm not saying that it's not terrible and traumatic and scary. It is all of those things, but that's the whole point of being able to transcend the Chiron wound, is looking at things symbolically, and also to be rooted in a place that is allows you to walk through fear and to feel supported no matter what's going on outside of you. That's really what the work is right now. And that's the Virgo work. That is the Virgo work. And we're getting so close to the point where we get to set a new intention around how much work that actually took. But it's slow and steady wins the race. And that's really hard when you're like surrounded by really dangerous things, and things that challenge you actually in the physical realm. So the moon's going to enter Leo, and it's going to square Mars right before it's going to square Mars right before that happens in Cancer. And this is a real challenge. And oh boy, we can really learn a lot from this moment right here. Here's the moon, and it's squaring into Mars. We could probably go back an hour or so we can get the full effect of the lines. There we go. One more. There we go. Perfect. So now you can really see it. So the moon comes and squares Mars retrograde in the last one of the last degrees of Cancer and Aries. So they're cardinal signs. That means there's movement attached to them. And this is really this degree of Cancer where the moon is has a lot to do with having our internal scale really calibrated, and based solely on our emotional state, feeling so secure emotionally that that scale within us, in order to intuitively weigh options, is fine-tuned. It is calibrated completely, because that ultimately is what allows us to fully express ourselves without fear. But we have to get to this point. Now it's in square, that's emotional, that's intuitive, right? That is digging deep, right? Whereas Mars is realizing that the real potency of creation comes with aligning to the cosmic attuning to the cosmic, order of things, the music of the spheres, right? But it's retrograde, so he's just like, oh, so maybe, there's going to be taking that backwards, seemingly, and working with that. But in the meantime, it's still an energy that is creative and action oriented, and so it's not fitting in well with the moon that is completely emotional, and emotional in a way of being so emotionally rooted that you're able to intuitively weigh things properly and with full trust in yourself. Whereas Mars wants to take action. It's just like, oh yeah, if you're aligned with the cosmic spheres, then you can manifest. And the square is going to show us where we're out of balance, right? Because there is both of these things are useful, but with Mars being retrograde, it's suggesting to me that it's not meant to be moving forward and creating and manifesting, despite the fact that there is a desire to do so. Now, it might be in an inner direction, but with the moon, the moon's also getting um, very dark now. Not totally, there's still some light there, but still getting dark. And I think that the emotional the emotional sophistication and the emotional calibration that comes with this moon in Cancer. It's, if we're out of alignment there, we'll see it. This is what the square will show us of where we're out of alignment, because you can't be too much one or the other, because it seems to me that we're going to eventually need both of these aspects to be working as we move through things going forward, especially when we go into the 14th, right? And so the moon will be in Leo, and then it's on, because it's going to not only be expressive, but the moon's going to line up with Venus, and then eventually square Uranus, which is the difference between spontaneous activity and something like watering the flowers in the garden. It is not going to fit well. So let's move forward to the 14th real quick. Yeah, things are going to get really expressive. It's going to be a lot about what feels good, what feels emotionally good. Like, it's going to be very emotional and very sweet and maybe sensual and deep with Venus and the moon. But in Leo, it's going to be like, total diva status. And it's going to be so expressive and passionate, which could be really great. But then coming right past it, is that square to Uranus. And you can see here Mercury is also going to be in sextile to the moon and Venus. That's nice. And there's going to be a yearning. There's a yearning for the soul to find some balance, and it's going to be about letting the mind go. This right here, this Mercury sextile the moon in Leo, we're going to be able to let the mind rest and let our creative passions take over. And I think that's going to be really recuperative, and we're going to really need that, and to kind of, oh God, to like, the winds are going to die down, right? We're going to get a break, and it's going to, I think, on some level, there will be an ability to allow ourselves internally to start actualizing our soul through this experience. And that's going to be through to Monday, the 14th. And then at this point, the moon is like I said, in Leo. The new moon's going to be in Virgo. And so now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. And I'll be talking more about that next week on the dailies. And there'll be a report coming soon for the next new moon. Oh, that's what I wanted to bring up about this whole process, that we're being challenged to, and we're getting closer and closer to some sort of transfiguration on some level when we get to 0 degrees of Libra, which is the autumn equinox. And the new moon that's coming is going to be an opportunity to plant the seed for truly valuing and recognizing how much work we've all put into getting ourselves to this point, and to be able to participate in this next stage, fully present and aware, and having done the real internal work that allows us to sharpen our intuition. Um, the new moon that for the cycle we're still currently in, was about it was a reminder to set the intention to be able to manage the darkness before the dawn. This is what this lunar cycle has been about, is the darkness before the dawn, and we are in it right now. And if we had set the intentions, we for being able to not even just manage it, but to weather it, you know what I mean? To remember it, to be able to dig down so deeply that we're not uncomfortable with the darkness, because we know it's part of just a cycle of the light coming back. Um, and that will carry us through these times where, as we get closer and closer to the end, emotionally we're going to really want something to happen in order to allow us to feel safe and secure. And it's tempting to act on things when Venus is in Leo, and you have the South Node in a fire sign, and you have Mars in retrograde in Aries. Like, wanting to act is going to be, it's really tempting, and emotionally it's going to be stimulated. But the sun is still in Virgo, and we're really getting ourselves lined up, and so we got to let this cycle play out and get ourselves sorted, so when it's time to actually act together in everyone's interest and make a big adjustment, we will be ready to do it. So thank you so much for joining me. Everything you need is in the description box below. Website, contact information. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.